Chris Marshall, field editor of Woodworker's Journal magazine. Recently, I needed to buy some lumber to build these glass panel cabinet doors. So there I was at my local lumber supplier, sorting through their inventory, and one of the considerations I needed to keep in mind was lumber thickness. It's probably something you've thought about many times yourself, but it's what I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about in this video. In the case of these cabinet doors, I wanted their finished thickness to be 3/4 of an inch, but I also needed to leave myself some leeway in terms of lumber thickness so that I could surface my stiles and rails for these doors flat and true. That was critical in this project, or the doors wouldn't sit flat in the cabinet. Well, the logical choice for me was to go through the 4/4 lumber at my supplier, and that's really where the issue comes in. 4/4 is not the finished thickness of what you'll find on the shelf. It actually refers to the thickness of the lumber before it receives its final surfacing at the mill. And once that takes place, there's a range of possible thicknesses that can result. In the case of this particular supplier, the 4/4 lumber they had on hand measured out to 13/16 of an inch. That's only a 1/16 of an inch thicker than what I needed for my doors. Now, on a project that I completed just prior to these doors, I was using maple from a different supplier, and their 4/4 inch lumber measures out to a little better than 15/16 of an inch. Now, in the case of these two suppliers, that's almost 1/8 of an inch difference in thickness of material for the same 4/4 inch specification. But that 1/8 of an inch can make all the difference if you need to surface away some distortions in the lumber, like cupping or twisting, or in the case of this particular maple sample, removing some rough surface that was left from the mill. With 15/16 of an inch, I could take that rough surface off, still account for any distortions in the lumber, and end up with a 3/4 inch material that I needed. Well, what are the takeaways? When you're shopping for lumber and you're buying from a local source, I suggest that you take along a tape measure. That way you can measure the actual thickness of the lumber you're buying, so when you get it home to your shop, there won't be any surprises. If you're buying lumber from a source outside your area, make sure and ask what the final thickness of the material is. Oftentimes it'll be specified on the company's website or on their order sheet, and if it's not, a quick call to the supplier is all it's going to take, and they'll be happy to tell you what that finished thickness is. Another good option to consider is rough sawn lumber. Rough sawn means there is no surfacing done at the mill, and you retain full control over the surfacing of the lumber, provided you have a joiner and planer. The beauty there is 4/4 is going to be at least 1 inch thick, sometimes a little bit more, and you can take that lumber down flat and true to the exact thickness that you need. Another advantage to rough sawn lumber is it can be one of the most inexpensive ways to buy your lumber, especially if you can buy it in volume. So get together with a few of your buddies and place one order, and you'll usually get a great deal. Now, what about home center lumber? Well, the challenge with home center lumber is they're building in some convenience in that purchase. You're going to get lumber that's surfaced on its edges and its faces, but when it's specified to be 3/4 of an inch, it's exactly 3/4 of an inch, and you have no leeway whatsoever to do any additional surfacing. Now, as you and I both know, it's rare to find a board that's straight and without distortion, but even if you happen to find one at the home center, there's no guarantee that it's going to stay that way when you put it on the shelf in your shop. So, in my opinion, thicker is always better. Now, I do buy from home centers from time to time, but generally what I'll do there is plan that lumber for situations where I need thinner work pieces, 5/8 inch or a 1/2 inch lumber, and then it works out okay. So, I hope these tips are helpful for you the next time you're buying lumber. Keep them in mind. Remember, thicker, in my opinion at least, is always better. And I hope it brings you some good luck the next time you need to buy lumber. In the meantime, enjoy your woodworking.